So I'm Harry Edwards. I'm the Commercial Director for Allianz Trade. So I look after new business, account management, commercial underwriting and marketing for ASEAN countries. Naturally, the tensions are heightened at the moment. I used to live in the Middle East, so I know what a vibrant and complex market it also is. But I think it's changed the overall market dynamics in terms of risk, from a risk perspective, because people are understanding that there are disruptions, but they're also trying to assess and to view how those disruptions are going to be fed in not only to the supply chain, but into local economies and local markets. So people are very keen to understand from us how we can support them in terms of getting more clarity, but also understanding how their credit limits are going to be viewed going forward. But they're also looking at how we can support them, and they're also looking to their buyer base to ensure that they have a lot of clarity and visibility of the risks that they have in the market. So you're right, we have seen overall from a 5-year perspective a steady increase in terms of the insolvencies in the global market. And again, you're right, over half of that is contributed from ASEAN or APAC markets. But it's important to understand that that's not a short-term cycle. It's a long-term structural shift that we're seeing, and that we're evidenced by the claims that we're paying out in the market across Asia. And I think it just demonstrates the needs for our clients and for sellers in the market to really ensure that they have a lot of visibility on the risks and the exposures that they have to their buyers in order to ensure that they can look from a forward-thinking perspective. Our analysis at the moment shows that these rise in insolvencies are not going to stop necessarily. They should stabilize in 2027 when we get to a more, let's say, stable macroeconomic environment, also from a geopolitical perspective. However, we don't anticipate that the insolvencies will halt as of next year. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's down to any one thing in particular. You can take a variety of factors to understand how insolvencies progress and the evolution of insolvencies in the market. But naturally, tensions and disruptions across the globe will feed into challenges at a local and a micro level. So it's always the case that a macroeconomic environment will influence and disrupt a microeconomic environment as well. Firstly, there's one thing to be very sure of, that trade hasn't stopped. So trade will always continue, but how that trade is progressing is really key to understand. So just because the Straits of Hormuz have temporarily closed does not mean that the flow of commodities and the flow of goods stops. So we are seeing a lot of changing dynamics and changing flows, and a lot of changes in terms of the way that our clients and also commodity traders get their source of procurement from. So if we look at companies that were getting purely from the Middle East, for example, they're now trying to diversify their supply base. And also we're seeing a lot of intra trade in Asia as well. So where supply sources stopped or halted or been disrupted, that they are able to look at a panel or a more diversified opportunities in order to get the crucial items that they need to trade with. Well, I think it's always important to look at ASEAN not as one market, but as you say, as a dynamic and diversified market. If you look at the development of individual markets, they are at a different stage. So you see more mature economies and you see more emerging markets coming in. If we're looking at Vietnam, for example, we're seeing an emergent market that is trading a lot, and especially with America. So it's really key for businesses and corporates in the region and who are selling to the region to really understand that just because you're selling to Vietnam does not mean it's the same as selling to Malaysia, for example. You really need to understand the local dynamics, the local environment, and who you are trading with.